Hi there, my name is Noah, and in this video, I'll be showing you how to manage a ClickHouse schema with Atlas's declarative migrations workflow using GitHub Actions. Now that was a lot of different pieces, so let's go through this step by step, starting with my setup. The first part of my setup is going to be this ClickHouse Cloud server. Now you can also use a local ClickHouse database with Atlas, and the guides for setting up both will be in the description below. But here I just have this ClickHouse Cloud server. It has a few databases, and each database has some tables or views. I also have a second server for a dev database. Now the documentation for what that is with Atlas is going to be in the description as well, but it's basically a space where we can compare our current schema with our desired schema, and that's how Atlas will plan the migration from getting from the current to the desired. The second part of my setup is the Atlas registry. So this is just a place where I can visualize and monitor my schema and schema changes. The final part of my setup is this GitHub repository, and this is going to contain the configurations for our CI/CD pipeline for that integration. In my GitHub repository, the first thing I have is this SQL directory, and this contains the schema as code definition of our ClickHouse server. So what I've done is run the Atlas schema inspect command on my ClickHouse server, and this inspects my ClickHouse schema and creates that file defining my whole schema as code. But with the split and write functions in the Atlas schema inspect command, I'm able to split this up by object in my schema and create a file for each one, and those get organized by object type into these folders. So for example, I have this customers table. It gets its own file definition, and when we want to make changes to our schema, we can just make these changes in their designated files, and this is how we create our desired schema state that we create migrations for. These folders are being imported into this main.sql file, so these import statements are found throughout the files and handle all the dependencies between objects within my schema, and these all get imported into one file, so that way there's one reference point for my schema. The next thing in the repository is going to be the atlas.htcl file. This creates our environment configuration for the Atlas commands. So it contains the URL to my ClickHouse server, the URL to my dev database server, the link to my schema.sql file, which is what we're going to consider the desired schema state. So this file just contains an import statement of the main.sql file that refers to that whole directory. And the last part of my environment is going to be the name of the Atlas registry repository that I will be pushing my migration plans and my current schema state to. So that way we can visualize and monitor all of those changes that we're making. The final part of my repository is going to be the YAML file, the GitHub Actions. This is where the automation really comes into play. So within this file, there are two jobs. The first is plan. So whenever I make a pull request on this repository, we'll run the Atlas schema plan action, and this creates that migration plan. So if there are differences found between the SQL directory and my current state of my ClickHouse database, we'll create a migration plan and push this into the pull request. The next job is called push, and this occurs when we merge this pull request into master. So this is going to first approve the plan, then push the plan to Atlas registry, and then apply the migration to the database, to my ClickHouse schema server. So now that we've gone through my entire setup, let's see this in action. So for this demonstration, we're going to start by going back to the SQL directory, and I'm going to go into the tables folder and pick a table. So I'll pick countries, and I'm going to edit this file to add a column. So I'm just going to add an updated at column, and I'll commit these changes to a new branch. I'm just going to call this add column countries and propose changes. So now I'm going to create this pull request, and we should see that plan action come into play. So you can see now our actions have been triggered. So now after a few minutes that action has completed, we have our migration plan right here, alter table, countries with the updated at column. And it also linted this migration plan. So there are no issues found in this schema change, and we are good to go with pushing this to our schema. So what I'll do now is merge the pull request. So now that that's been merged, when I go back to my Atlas registry repository and go into the plans column, I can see that a minute ago I had a plan pushed to my repository and it's been approved. And when I go into it, I can see the SQL statement of that migration plan that we saw in the pull request. So when I look at my overview now, I should see that my latest schema state has updated. And if I look at the difference between the current state and the previous one, the difference is that updated at column that we just added just now. Additionally, we can go to our ClickHouse cloud server and check that in our customer DB database in the countries table, that updated at column has now been added. So what we've done here is by simply creating and merging a pull request on GitHub through updating a file in our GitHub repository, we've pushed these changes to an Atlas registry to monitor all these changes that we're making, but it's also automatically been pushed to our ClickHouse cloud server. So I hope this was a helpful way to visualize and really see the step-by-step of how Atlas's declarative migrations can be implemented automatically to manage your ClickHouse schema. If you have any further questions, feel free to leave a comment down below and there will be some helpful links in the description. So I hope you have a great day and happy coding.